Hey, I'm Quincy and I'm a radio personality, but just like you, I'm always wanting to make better health choices for myself and of course for my family. Now that's why I've teamed up with my friend Dr. Dean Tyndall and the fine folks of New Life Naturopathic, the creators of new-lifeweightloss.com, to bring you a podcast focused on giving you the information you need to make the best health decisions for you and your family. Now, that's going to be without sway from what mainstream medicine has become. Now, this podcast, Pursuit of New Life, we're going to release one each Friday. And we're going to focus on debunking the mainstream medicine myths now associated with naturopathic, holistic medicine, while giving you clear insight into ways you can make your health a lifestyle and not a jump from fad diet to fad diet. Experts in the fields of biochemistry, chiropractic, physiology, women's health, and much more will weigh in on a range of topics, all designed to open your eyes, expand your knowledge, and bring you to new life. Now be sure to subscribe to Pursuit of New Life on all the podcast platforms, and also follow us on YouTube at newlifenaturopathic.com, and be joining us every Friday for Pursuit of New Life.
Hey there, this is Pursuit of New Life. We're so glad that you're on the journey with us, and we've got the whole New Life team here, and it is that time of year again. No, not summer ending. Well, summer is almost over, but for a lot of people, school is getting back in session, so that is going to be what we talk about today, and we would love for you to subscribe and share on your favorite podcast platform, as well as find us on YouTube, and that'll be under New Life Naturopathic on YouTube. That's a great place to check it out as well here on the podcast. So team, we're going to do things a little different. We almost always start with Dr. T, but this is Dr. Stuber's episode. So we're going to have an episode led by Dr. Stuber about back to school. And it is truly an interesting time because there's a whole group of people, moms especially, that are very excited because all the kids are going to get back into school. Then there's a whole nother group of people, of teachers that are like, oh no. It's a whole different set of stresses for a bunch of different people. So let's talk about how that impacts us, shall we?
Absolutely. Well, it dawned on me, it's apparent being a mother that it's that time again. It comes along quickly. So I hear both ways. Like some people are so excited their kids are going to school, and then other people wish they would stay home. So what's interesting nowadays is I hear from the children how much stress it is. It's stress to stay home. It's stress to go back to school. And I find that interesting because even 10 years ago, I didn't hear that. So there's a lot of issues that come up this time of year. Obviously, there's doing all the shopping for school and how stressful it can be, financially, time crunch, and also transitioning your children back into that routine. It's hard to get up early for most people, and it's hard to get everybody going and get them, dressed, fed, everything you have to do. So what I kind of like to stress is the importance of staying healthy, of being healthy. Summertime's great. The weather's pretty stable. Kids have a lot of fun. Hopefully they get outside. We've been talking about that, how important it is that kids get off their electronics and just have regular person-on-person communication skills. So the importance of a routine for everybody is critical. You need that to regulate sleep cycles. It regulates your appetite. The basis of health, it goes with the circadian rhythm and fundamental routine. So it also seems, just an observation, Dr. Tyndall or Miriam can probably go into this chemically more, that I tease people that, keep your kids healthy, feed them right, because about 2 to 3 weeks after school starts, that fall sickness starts, and the kids have it for 3 days, and then you wait 2 weeks and the adults have it for 3 months. You just never quite get over it. So it's very important that we get good nutrition for everybody to keep their system healthy and regulated, especially when we're under more stress all the way around. And a lot of times kids are going back to school and it's been a long time since my son was in school, but I believe they use a lot of electronics. So their heads are buried in that all day long. I
A
don't.
lot of things now are on Chromebooks instead of like actually like handwriting's not near as important as it used to be
Yeah.
because of that.
So
I've noticed with my young children.
right, and so with that, I truly see a lack of social skills. Um, Such times that I work with people when they come in, their children don't know how to make eye contact. Uh, but it affects everything. It affects their, when you have a high level of stress, you have high levels of cortisol, and it just weakens your immune system. So Dr. Tyndall's going to get more into the school lunch programs and what they are about and the importance of packing good nutrition and keeping your children healthy and just keeping the stress as low as it can possibly be. I tell people you can only do what you can do, but you can always strive to be better.
Yeah.
So, uh,
Well,
you know,
we did a whole episode on stress and we did a whole episode on sleep, but we did a lot of that from adulting perspective. So Miriam, you're closer to the college days than the rest of us. You want to tell us a little bit about the more recent stress of getting back into the swing of school schedules and things like that, or maybe what it was like for you?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I remember, still remember like it was yesterday, just, that first day of school and the day before and anticipating and stressing out about what I need, not just with college, but also grade school. Um, me personally, I would always at first kind of get this sinking feeling of, oh my gosh, I know I'm not physically or mentally prepared for this, but it's gonna happen. So ready or not, it's coming. So then, usually the first day or week is usually the toughest. And then I usually, uh, once I get over that hurdle, taking a little getting used to and adjusting to the classes and everything. Um, but I definitely did notice, especially in college and just getting exposed to a much larger group of people, especially the large classes and seminars that I would have to attend. I noticed myself getting, a lot more stressed out, socially. I had some bad social anxiety, but that's separate. I definitely started getting sick a lot more often. I knew I was stressed out. I knew I wasn't really ready to go back to school. And even when I was, just my stress levels would just always be at a constant high. And the further and further I went along in school, then the more I noticed myself getting more and more susceptible, not only because of exposure to so many more individuals, uh, but also I knew I was getting very stressed out and, not having that support from parents, being alone and away from home, which some of that did help my stress in some ways.
I was going to say, there's those two groups of people again.
Right, right. Uh,
So on that though, that's actually a good opportunity to ask you a question. So from your perspective then, from what you dealt with and what advice would you give to parents to better support and prepare their kids as they're heading into that first day? Or should it be like maybe a little more hands off and not as much pressure and asking the kid what they're getting ready for and all of that?
I think that really depends on the individual. I think a lot more, some kids are more excited than others. Some kids are more nervous. I really think, you need to just know your kid in that sense. I think a combination of both, or I guess a good balance of both would be good. You don't want to be too affirmative. You don't want to be, too in their faces and increase their stress even more than you have to. But you also want a little bit of input into what's going on in their daily lives. Just don't overdo it. I know for me, as a kid, I never liked to be asked those constant questions of, oh, how was your day? Tell me about all the details. And I just feel like, Mom, please. But some kids do like to talk about it. So you have to just kind of gauge your children in that way.
Well, my oldest is in middle school, in his second year of middle school now. And he has a very different approach. He just wants to get in, do his schoolwork, be done, come home. He likes band, he likes doing some of the extra stuff. But now my two daughters at 6 and 4, one having a little more school experience and the other one in her first ever experience getting into preschool. It's very interesting to hear their responses when I do ask those questions now. So I asked the 6-year-old and she gives me all of the drama, okay? So when I say, how was your day at school? It's this friend did this, that friend did that, this group is over here, I wasn't included. And then I finally have to say, okay, that's, we'll talk about that. But like, what did you learn? Like, so I'll break it down of what I actually want. And then I asked the other one, and it's an absolute play-by-play from the time she left the house to the time she got home. and she'll mention a couple things about friends and making new friends because it's only been a few days, but just the contrast in the two. And the older daughter doesn't enjoy waking up early. So every night as it gets closer to bedtime, she's like, oh, I have to go to school tomorrow, and that means I have to get up early. And the other one's like, I get to go to school again tomorrow.
Wow.
So I have the whole dynamic in my house. And I really have started trying to learn, okay, this one doesn't want to talk about that aspect of school. This one wants to talk, so I'm trying to learn. But leading up to the first day of school, it was a lot of, my youngest especially, I'm very nervous. I'm scared is what she would say at first. And I said, well, honey, it's okay to be scared, but I think you're more nervous than scared. Let's talk about why that is. And so she then would tell me about making friends and tell me about not knowing if she would do well, so I would take times to reaffirm those things for her. And then the oldest actually did a great job of trying to reinforce those things about his own school experience. And then the older sister, always added on different things, but sometimes was really helpful and other times was just trying to, stir up stuff. So
yeah,
it is truly an individual. And yeah, it's truly an individual, each parent knows their kids hopefully enough to have those conversations as school comes up. But balance is key, like you pointed out, Miriam, because, we don't want to get our kids to the point to where they're dreading having that conversation with us. We don't want them to get to the point to where they're dreading going to school because they know when they get home, they're going to have to remember what they did that day. So we definitely don't want to add to that. And one of the stresses, we've had that in our household of what are you going to eat for lunch? Are you going to take one? Are you going to eat what the school provides? Dr. Tyndall, I know you wanted to provide some insight on school lunches. So let's give you an opportunity here.
Yeah. So this is actually, for me, this is my first, my daughter just graduated last year.
Oh, look at you.
I'm like, ooh, I don't have to do any of this stuff. Yeah. So yeah, big thing that when you're going back to school, and Julie mentioned a little bit, you've been the kids have been home. They've been kind of doing their thing. For the most part, kind of isolated from, a group of people. And like Miriam said, what happens when you start coming back to school, you're going to be bringing in people you haven't seen for a while or new kids and people like that. So what happens is, and we're going to talk about a little bit more when we talk about the immune system. But what happens is you tend to get a little bit more exposure. And then of course, if you're with exposure, you have a chance of those pathogens getting in your body. So, a couple of things that we tell parents, like if you want to kind of keep the illness stuff down, number one is, your kids are going to be exposed. So the other thing is have your kids, it's simple, wash your hands with soap and water. You don't have to do all this crazy gel stuff and all that. Just some simple soap and water. And then just kind of keep your hands out of your mouth, which, kids, it's kind of hard.
I've got a 64-year-old that will challenge that, brother.
Yeah. They'll be like, yeah. So, but you want to kind of talk to them and say, just minimize that. And of course, a lot of our parents that we come in, they're like asking our, they're like, okay, we're going back, and my kids are always getting sick. So one of the big things that we tell, Standard Process has got a great product called Children's Immune. It's a wafer that they take, and basically they do two a day to help boost their immune system and help to strengthen the immune system, because it's one of the aspects that we're going to talk about the immune system is how you can prevention of disease, but one of them is keeping the immune system strong. And so we really recommend the Kids Immune, and then of course a couple then there's some whole food supplements to make sure they got the full nutrition, keep the immune system and body healthy. And then we also have them keep around Conjuplex and Antigraphis. That's for if a kid start to get sick. Conjuplex and Antigraphis help boost the immune system to fight off infections. It's really great with viral and bacterial type infections in the system. And the sooner you catch it, the quicker the kids get over it. So actually, my kids used to carry it around with them at school. So they started feeling like, I'm tired, I don't feel good. Man, they would grab it, take it, get a little rest, and bam, they're back ready to go. The other thing is that's a real tough with schools nowadays and kids and stuff. And I heard this from my daughter all the time: school lunches. The problem with school lunches, I got taken over several years ago by an attorney who educated as an attorney, but that was what they wanted to push in their agenda. And you're having people who don't know anything about nutrition and food setting policy for school lunches. So over the years, my kids, we didn't really do lunch tickets because the kids wouldn't eat the lunch. It was just, the food was terrible, it's nasty. So what we try to do is make sure the kids had food at home to take for lunch. We try to make sure that they weren't real big breakfast eaters, but I always try to make sure that we had simple stuff around, like apples and yogurts and things like that they could have quickly to because my kids, they didn't want to get up to school either. Like, oh, I gotta go to school. I'm like, get up, let's go. So they would grab something on the way in and eat something on the way in the car and stuff like that. But we would try to have good nutritious food, stuff that supports them, because a lot of people forget that eating is not for pleasure. Eating is for providing nutrients to our body so it can run and function properly. But yeah, so kind of getting a lot of parents are like, oh man, I don't want to prep for my kids' school lunches, but it makes a big difference in their ability to study. There's a lot of research out there that kids who have, especially after the lunches, because a lot of these lunches are basically very heavily carbohydrate based. So what happens? Their blood sugar gets high, and the kids are in the classroom going because of all the sugar, and they can't learn. So if you want your kid to learn and you want the best for your kid, a good thing is to pack a good healthy lunch with, vegetables and good meats and good fats and things like that. Because you want them, and I think everybody can agree. I don't care what economic, social status you're at or wherever you're at politically and things. We all want our kids to be educated. We want them to have a good education, because everybody knows that if our kids are educated, this is what they use as building blocks to make the foundation of their life that they can build on to do whatever they want in life, whether it be, trade schools or college or just going out into the workforce and being successful there.
Yeah.
But we want to make sure that they have that, and we optimize our kids' health and education.
Yeah, it's important. And, one of the things too that I think is our related experiences. We were talking just a moment ago about, preparing our kids for their first day of school and letting them know about maybe how we handled lunch or what we ate, or, maybe how we made decisions on what we ate and things like that, and setting that pattern, setting that routine. We've talked about the importance of sleep, and we've talked about the importance of avoiding stress and routine and things like that. And those are in other episodes for people that maybe haven't been along this journey with us. Make sure you're checking out Pursuit of New Life on the podcast platforms and on YouTube at New Life Naturopathic. So speaking of routine and our own stories, while I have Dr. Tyndall over in the main screen here on the YouTube channel, what is maybe one of your favorite memories of going back to school? Or maybe do you have like one of those really odd, off the wall stories that you want to share about going back to school? To put everybody on the spot.
No, I grew up in Iowa, so we education. Education was a huge thing in Iowa's back when we were younger. Iowa was the number one school, or Iowa as a state was the number one state for education, as far as testing and things like that. When I was in high school, I liked school. So
I did too.
Because they had off the farm, isolated and find it, because the people I always saw was my cousin down the road and my brother and sister. So, we would get on our bikes and do stuff. And when we were older, we were, we're more mobile. But as kids, it's like, hey, I get to see my friends again, and so it was nice to do that. But yeah, we had back then our teachers pushed us. We learned a lot. So, for example, like when I was in high school, my organic chemistry book was Morrison and Boyd, which doesn't mean too much to anybody. Probably, maybe Miriam gets it, and maybe Dr. Stuber. But
not me.
When I got to Iowa State for my 300 level organic chemistry class, that's the book we used.
Yeah, I was going to say
I was taking
prepared. Yeah.
So I was taking a 300 level. Yeah, so I was taking basically a 300 level chemistry course that I had at Iowa State back in high school. So, education was, a huge thing. So yeah, we always enjoyed it. It's that fun to get back together with your friends. And
so that's what you enjoyed the most, was getting back and being back with your friends. And of course, being a studious person that you are, just getting back to school in general. All right. Well, that one wasn't as fun.
I was a little mischiefy in school. I could tell you some stories.
I don't have the beep button today, so we'll just, all right, Dr. Stuber, do you want to share a back to school story, college, high school, whatever, or even with your own camp?
Well, I'll check up my experience. I love school. So I'm from Iowa, also like Dr. Tyndall. And my parents, especially my father, just always stressed the importance of education. From a young age, I knew I wanted to be a doctor. So I just love sucking in the knowledge. I just like to learn all different kinds of things. But, back in that particular time, Iowa was by far like the best state in the country. My son, he liked going back to school. He was always an early riser. I mean, I never slept later than 7 a.m. He was up usually before me. So he liked school. He liked playing outside, but he was just simple. I was teasing him. He was born like a little old man. So, I guess the biggest thing I like to stress is just routine. I like that routine. Like for me, I'm a pretty simple person. Learning is kind of my life. So even when I was a kid, I go to school and I come home and go to my room with my books, my Encyclopedia Britannica. I don't know if you remember it, but it's like my possession of 26 or however many volumes there were. And I'm still like that. So, the thing too is on the weekend, try not to get too far away from your regular routine, and even nutrition wise, don't feed your kids a bunch of junk, or even you all need to stay healthy. So it becomes hard. Like if you let your child stay up till midnight on Saturday, you never quite catch up.
Yeah, I don't play that game in my house. It changes by about an hour on the weekends. They get an extra hour, and that's it. That's easier to come back from. And we did that through the summer too. We did not vary far from the school schedule because the summer breaks are shorter than they used to be too. Yep. All right, Miriam, what's one of your favorite stories? I'm waiting for a good one. Those two were disappointing. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, man.
I'm just a really good student and I love school.
Oh. Well, I hope to not disappoint you. And
I'm not actually disappointed. It's okay. I like that they like school.
You're just talking to a whole bunch of nerds.
You're talking to the girl who went to a magnet school.
So she likes school too.
So she went for like a really specific.
Are we talking about me?
Yes.
Yeah. So like
They pulled Miriam out of regular public school and they said, we're going to put this smart person in this magna school.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I never actually very much liked school. I had a lot more anxiety and hesitation about it. I think that's just part of my personality. I am more of a free thinker, innovative thinker. I'm very fluid with the way I want to learn things. And
So the structure of school stressed you out.
yes, absolutely. So that was kind of my experience and always has been my experience with it. I also, like I mentioned earlier, had a little bit of social anxiety. I had a really hard time getting along with other students my age, and I think maybe it's just the way I grew up. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I was raised in the southern part of that, so it was, I guess, less city-like and more small town-like, to say the least. And, I knew a lot of my neighbors, and a lot of them went to my same grade school, so I kind of got tired of seeing them. But, I don't want to be too negative either. I mean, there's definitely aspects of school that I did enjoy. I definitely liked learning. I just felt like I never had that personality for a more structured environment. I got in trouble a lot as a kid.
Me too, just because I was hyper, though. It wasn't
Yes.
wasn't because I didn't do my schoolwork.
Yeah. I was hyper, and I also did not like to be told what to do. I was actually one teacher actually complained about me for being too bossy, so that's kind of an interesting scenario.
My 6-year-old got that one last year. She was told that she is not the teacher.
Yeah.
We got that message from the school.
Yeah. She's not the student, right? But the teacher. Yeah. So I was more passive in that sense of just kind of trying to get it over with so that I can, I always looked forward to working and getting out into the real world. And I think that's just always been more suitable for me than, being in a very structured environment. But, with that being said, I absolutely loved learning. But, our public school systems, especially in Southern Louisville, were not the best either. So, it wasn't really hard to be like top of my class. But also at the same time, I was pretty studious. And, I ended up pretty much the only person that got accepted to the very competitive high school that I eventually went to, math, science, technology program. And that was a difficult transition for me. But it definitely prepared me for college. I took the AP classes, I was pre-med, all that fun stuff. And
So the self-ascribed nerd. Got it. Yep.
yeah, well, I think that to be considered a nerd, you have to like school. So
That's true too.
maybe I'm kind of like not.
You're a little bit of a rebel nerd. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. All right. Well, as we wrap this episode up, we just want to encourage people again, as we've gone through the progression toward this episode of Back to School, it just so happened that we did talk about stress and sleep and routine and nutrition and all of those things that are important for adults, but it is also extremely important for our kids as they go back to school. So I think that's the important thing to take away from today. If you're a parent watching this or listening to this and thinking, my kid doesn't like school, or this is happening or that is happening, there's a lot of little things that you can do to prepare them, and you can, especially their nutrition, is a big thing to take a look at. And we can help you with that. And that is at new-lifeweightloss.com. It says weight loss there because that's what a lot of people are looking for, but it really is lifestyle enhancing. It's an opportunity to make good choices. It is not just a diet. It is a lifestyle change. and you can go to new-lifeweightloss.com. Dr. Tyndall and his team have put a lot into that website to really help you get your nutritional priorities in check with you and your family. So our back to school episode, Dr. Stubert, is it kind of what you were looking for? I hope we at least got close.
Yes. Thanks, Quincy.
All right, good deal. Well, we encourage you to subscribe and download Pursuit of New Life on all your podcast platforms. And then also, of course, on YouTube, it is New Life Naturopathic. And that is where you need to go to check it out each week here on Pursuit of New Life.
See you, Quincy.
Thank you, Quincy.
Thanks.